We're curious about this question. What kind of men don't like the Sex and the City drama? Okay. Men who dislike Sex and the City often do not simply dislike the show itself, but feel uncomfortable with the core expression of a show that breaks traditional gender roles and highlights women's sense of autonomy. Essentially, it is a resistance to women not living by the rules defined from a male perspective. Such men typically have the following typical traits. 1. Firm defenders of traditional gender roles, believing that women should return to their defined position. These men agree with the traditional logic of men being strong and women being weak, and women needing to center on family or men. Well, Sex and the City precisely subverts this logic. The women in the show do not regard marriage and having children as the end of life. They dare to openly talk about sex and desires, and dare to take the lead in making choices in their careers and relationships, such as Samantha rejecting marriage and Miranda prioritizing her career. For them, this attitude of women actively taking control of their lives impacts their inherent impression that women should be gentle, dependent, and prioritize men's needs. So they instinctively reject the values conveyed by the show. 2. Self-centered, hegemonic thinking. Unable to accept the right to speak from a female perspective. The core of the show is women's self-expression. The dialogues, choices, and complaints of the four protagonists all proceed from women's own needs and feelings, such as discussing whether sex can be separated from love, whether marriage is necessary, how to balance self and partner, rather than from the perspective of whether men are satisfied or whether society approves. Such men are accustomed to viewing intimate relationships from their own perspective as the center. For example, thinking that women talking about sex is indecent, and women prioritizing their careers is not caring about the family. When the show places the female perspective at the core, and even straightforwardly exposes men's selfishness and evasion in relationships, such as Mr. Big's repeated back and forth, and Miranda's ex-husband's irresponsibility, they feel offended and then dislike the show. 3. Intolerance of diverse choices for women, only recognizing a single template for women. The key charm of Sex and the City is showing the diverse possibilities of women. Some desire traditional marriage, Charlotte. Some pursue sex and freedom, Samantha. Some balance career and love, Miranda. And some cling to spiritual resonance, Carrie. There is no correct answer, only whether one is loyal to oneself. But such men often only recognize the female template that meets their expectations, such as virtuous wife and good mother, and gentle and sensible. They find it difficult to understand Samantha's anti-traditional style and Miranda's rational and strong manner, and even label them as extreme or abnormal. What they dislike is not the show, but the images of women in the show who do not live by their standards. 4. evasive type who avoid real contradictions, unwilling to face the real complexity of intimate relationships. There are no perfect love fairy tales in the show. Instead, it extensively presents real problems in intimate relationships. Men's invasion, communication barriers, conflicts of values, and the balance between love and self, such as push-pull battle between Carrie and Mr. Big, and the daily life conflicts in Miranda's marriage. Such men are accustomed to avoiding real problems in relationships and prefer to accept the simplified narrative of male dominance and female compromise. However, the straightforward presentation of the complexity of relationships and Sex and the City, especially women's unwillingness to compromise and their courage to upset the table, will hit their pain point of unwillingness to face problems, and then they avoid this discomfort by disliking the show. Okay? Summarize. The core reason why men dislike Sex and the City is not aesthetic differences, but a conflict of values. What they resist is the core expression in the show that women are no longer appendages, but independent subjects pursuing desires and choosing their lives. On the contrary, men who can accept or even like this show often have a stronger sense of gender equality. They can respect women's autonomous choices and can tolerate diverse possibilities in intimate relationships.